In today's lesson, we're going to talk about section 3-1, representing relations. So first we need to discuss what relations are. First off, a mapping illustrates how each element of the domain is paired with an element in the range. So here are four main examples of how we illustrate mappings, or relations. So one is an ordered pair. That's the most common that we will use in math. 1, 2, -2, 3, 0, -3. In a table, your x's and your y's. For your x's, you have 1, -2, 0, and y's, you have 2, 3, -3. In a graph, we can see them all graphed accordingly on the x-axis and the y-axis. And then a mapping, we have two bubbles with the x's pointing to their corresponding y's. Now what's nice is that the domain is always your x values. Now typically it's x, but sometimes they use like different letters like s and t, but your first variable, or in our case x, is always the domain, and the range is the y values. So it makes it really easy for us. So when we have to answer that question, the first values are the domain and the second values are the range. So express each relation from the ordered pairs 3, 2, -1, 2, 0, -3, -2, -2 as a table, a graph, and a mapping. Luckily, I've already got them planned out, so all we have to do is fill in the spots. So for our x's, it's always the first numbers. So we have all of these right here. So we have 3, -1, 0, and -2. For your y's, make sure you put them in the corresponding spots. 2, 2, -3, and -2. So they should be paired with their corresponding x's. Now we graph x. So 3, 2, we go over 3, up 2, -1, up 2, 0, -3, and -2, -2. So there we have them graphed. And then we can put our values into the bubble. So here's your x's, here's your y's. So we have 3, -1, 0, and -2. Now if you notice in the y values, you actually have two 2's, so you only have to actually list it once. So we have 2, we have -3, and we have -2. Now all we gotta do is draw the arrows to our corresponding. So 3 goes to 2. And also -1 goes to 2. So I'm gonna draw it right there. And then 0 goes to -3, and -2 to -2. And there you have your mappings. Alright. So to finish off, determine the domain and the range. So like I said, the domain is the x values and the range is the y values. So your domain, I'm just going to put D, would be 3, -1, 0, and -2. Your range would be your y values. So I have 2, -3, and -2. Now notice I don't have to put the 2 twice, I only have to put it once. So express the relation -4, 8, -1, 9, -4, 7, and 6, 9 as a table, a graph, and a mapping. Alright, so we'll do a quick table. So we have -4, -1, -4, and 6. And then with their corresponding parts, I got 8, 9, 7, and 9. Okay, and so using that, I'm going to draw my bubble map. And I'm going to take care of part B. And notice it says determine the domain and the range. I'm going to do that in the bubble map. So I'm going to put my domain right here and my range right here. So my two bubble maps. So notice I have, again, two -4. So I have -4, -1, and 6. And then in the range, I have 7, 8, 9. So now I just got to draw my arrows to corresponding parts. So -4 goes to 8. -1 goes to 9. -4 goes to 7. And 6 goes to 9. So there's our bubble map that tells our domain and our range. And now I'm going to graph. So I'm going to go by 2s here because I'm out of room. So let's go by 2. So that's 2 and that's 2. So I get -4, 8. So -4, 2, 4, 6, 8. -1, 9. Right about in the middle. -4, 7. So a little below that one. And then 6, 9. We got 6 and we got 9. So there we have it. Okay. Let's keep moving forward. The table shows the results of a recent survey in which students were asked about their use of text messaging. You know, this was way back when messages actually cost a certain amount per text, so it wasn't unlimited. But so determine the domain and the range. Okay, so keep in mind, remember, the top number is always your domain, so we can just write that in. I'm not going to overwork here. I'm having trouble here selecting my... There we go. I was having trouble there. Was it working for me? So the top number is your domain. And the bottom numbers are your range. Okay, so graph the data. So we have, so I kind of set this up for you. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 17, 30, 34, 45, 46, 54. So I've got it started. I'm going to keep going here. So we got to just start. So 12, 17. Notice I'm just going to go back up and down to see what my numbers are. So I start with 12, 17. So I go to 12, and I'm going to go to right about 17. I'm approximating here. And then I got 13, 30, or 13, 30. 14, 34, so a little bit above that. 1545, and then 1646, not much more above that, and then the last one, 1754. So there is my graph. So what can we conclude? We can conclude that the older students get, the more they will use their text messaging. Because as we can see, our graph goes slightly uphill if we were to follow it. Alright. Letitia earns $7 for walking one dog, 28 for walking 4, 42 for walking 6, and 49 for walking 7. Determine the domain and the range. So we got to look for what determines what. So what determines, or what she's going to deal with, is she deals with how many dogs she walks. So her domain is the number of dogs she walks. So we have 1, 4, 6, and 7. And then the range would be how much she earns. So we have 7, 28, 42, and 49. All right. So there we go. We have our x and our y's. We can graph now. So here we go. 1, 7, 2, 28. I'm going to fill in this for all the way so we can easily read this. I went by 7s, as you can see. So 2, 28, 6, 42, and 7, 49. So there we go, and there's our graph. And that's all it's asking us, so we are done. So last thing, an inverse is obtained by switching the coordinates of each ordered pair. So here's just a key concept of explaining. Notice the relation is 0, 2, negative 5, 4. The inverse of that, it would be 2, 0, and 4, negative 5. So you're literally just switching the x and the y. Okay, so here's the mapping. That 2 goes to negative 4, 3 goes to negative 4, 5 goes to negative 7, and 6 goes to 8. So literally just switch the bubbles. So in the second bubble, or in the first bubble, I'm going to write negative 4, negative 7, negative 8. The other one, 2, 3, 5, 6. And I'm just going to reverse the arrows. So 4 will go to 2, and it'll go to 3. Negative 7 will go to 5, and negative 8 will go to 6. And that's all an inverse is. You literally just switch the x and the y values.